Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan, and here's Austin, the Day Ghost. And it's time for another episode of The ReQuest. And this time, Dylan asked us to review Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. This is a Jim Carrey movie that came out in 2004. And Austin, one of the first movies in a while on a request that I have seen before. But it's been so long, I remembered very little about this movie. In fact, I thought this movie was a lot more surreal than it was. When we had an actual mechanic for like story mechanic for what's going on with all of the like kind of dreamy sequences, I was like, oh, I didn't remember that there was like a science fiction element to this film.
Yeah, and I went into this completely blind. I just knew it was a Jim Carrey movie, and now I know that it was requested by Dylan.
I don't know why you said it like that.
Oh, it's for Predator. The second you said his name was Dylan, I was like, I gotta sneak that in.
I don't know that movie well enough. Anyway, this is a fun movie to go into blind. I think it's really cool that you got to see this without knowing the premise at all. So I guess right out the gate, and by the way, thanks to Dylan for requesting this on Patreon. This is a thing that I remembered liking a lot and always wanted to go back to, so I'm really glad that I have done that again. I remember this being one of the more, top tier, really imaginative Jim Carrey movies, and with a great performance from him, up there with something like The Truman Show and Man on the Moon, but I just couldn't recall a lot of things about it. I think I saw this a couple years after it came out. And anyway, so tell me a little bit about your experience with this, Austin, since you didn't know anything about it going in. How confused were you out the gate, and how long did it take you to realize, particularly, what's going on at the beginning of this movie? It being such a, out-of-sequence, non-linear thing.
I feel like I called it pretty early that the beginning was the end, or not exactly the end, but the mid to late end.
That it's not actually the first time that it's not the first meet cute; it's the second meet cute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when he started talking about her, there's they drop little hints here and there, and I just kind of was like, oh, okay, I can kind of see where this movie's going. But I didn't have okay, can the movie catch up with me now? Kind of reaction. Say, I saw that movie last night in Soho a little bit ago, and I, called the twist really early, and it was like, okay, let's get there now.
So you're kind of checking your watch, waiting to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
So even though you
just kind of
felt like
you
knew what was going on, you didn't feel like the movie was teasing you with it too much, or not giving you any credit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It was more so just, kind of looking into this relationship and this guy's mind. And I mean, I have a very smooth brain, so I'm sure a lot of it went over my head, but it was pretty good.
I am really, really awed and inspired by this movie. It's, I think, a kind of textbook example of how to do nonlinear correctly. Not that everything is able to have the kind of framing device and conceit of a movie like this, but there is a logic even beyond just having a kind of science fiction premise. What if we had the ability to erase people's memories, and there's just a place you could go to get that done at some kind of tiny facility with a little company that can't possibly be certified by anyone. There's no way this is legal, what these people are doing. But it has that conceit which immediately gives you a reason for, an in-story reason for it being as non-linear as it is, but it doesn't strike me as a cheat where we can just be crazy and like all these events happen in a completely bizarre random order. It does feel like there is a certain logic to the information that you're getting about this guy's life and his relationship with this woman through the memories that he's getting mostly backwards, but jumping around some, but especially with their relationship, where the movie is very intelligently informing us about this couple and how they got along or didn't get along, and the various reasons that they're together, why they make a sometimes good couple, sometimes terrible dysfunctional couple, in I think a very particular sequence. I don't think it's random.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, you kind of go backwards, but you kind of catch, the details about the relationship. And I think what's cool about that is when you catch up to after the opening, you kind of see that like stretched out, relationship that they had kind of play out again in the span of like 5 minutes. Where
Yeah.
like a lot of the stuff that they were fighting about as the relationship went on comes up then. And I thought that was like pretty cool and good setup and payoff.
Yeah, and I also really appreciate just how believable the details of conversation are when things will get repeated or sometimes like slightly altered. It's kind of like really good um, causality loop fiction, because of course it isn't that, but you've got places where the same characters will have to go through something they've been through before but they don't realize they have, so there are subtle differences in the conversation, and sometimes there's real specific reasons that a person, particularly Jim Carrey's character, will say a thing that they didn't say last time, or will bring up something slightly differently because of information that was erased from his mind. So there's this really nice subtle thing that happens in the bookend with the kind of framing device that you get, where the movie opens. You think it's the first time that these people are meeting. This guy and this girl who meet on a train and
Going anywhere.
say it again.
Said they were on a midnight train going anywhere.
And they have this conversation that is deeply informed. We'll find out later by the initial real first conversation that they had, but both of their memories have been erased. Because if it's been a while since you've seen this movie, or you've not seen it, I mean, we're going to spoil things because there's no way to talk about this movie without doing that. But they will at some point decide that the relationship is breaking down and not working, and there's a breakup that's happening, and the girl, we should probably talk about this with character names. You've got Joel and Clementine, and Joel tries to kind of keep the relationship together, but she's ready for it to end because this guy is too insecure and he's afraid of commitment, and on her end she comes on too strong and she's kind of controlling and she's neurotic and she's kind of all over the place, real mood swingy, and so it's a dysfunctional relationship with a couple of dysfunctional people that are having a hard time really like operating in the real world and being social creatures. And she decides that she wants her memory erased of this, and conveniently there is a facility she can go to have that done. And their busy time is Valentine's Day, which I think is hilarious, and that's around the time that it is. So she gets her memory erased, and when Joel finds out about this inadvertently, he decides to also have that done to himself. And so at the beginning, I found it really curious when they first meet. That's actually the second time that he didn't know the "Darling Clementine" song. I'm like, who doesn't know that? Like, everyone's heard that song. And I was like, this is very strange writing. I'm not even buying this at all. I'm like, Huckleberry, who doesn't know that? I'm like, I'm not buying this. And then Oh, okay, all right, but that guy that age, I wasn't
Yeah.
buying it. So then you get to the end of the movie with the bookend, and you see, or close to the end, in their memory when they meet for the first time, because we're kind of going backwards through their memories as this facility is trying to erase them all. He's basically running away from the erased memories, and also trying to hide from the guys that are doing the erasing in various memories in his life, which is cool because it gives you a much clearer picture of this guy, and it paints a picture, and he has to go through all these kind of painful memories that by and large are things everybody deals with at some time or another. So it's a real good treatise on just life and memory and all the sucky things that we have to deal with that are a part of who we are. So at the end of the day, it's important that we keep those things even though they're painful and we hate them and we wish they didn't have to be there. That's of course one of the big points of this movie. And he so when we see their initial meeting, she says the same thing she does at the beginning. My name is Clementine. Don't make fun of my name. And this time he says, "What do you mean, like, oh my darling Clementine from Huckleberry Hound?" And she's like, "Yeah, stuff like that." And I'm like, this writing is awesome. Like that is spectacular. Like I enjoy it any time I get proven wrong with a thing in a story of any kind where I'm like, wait a minute, like I'm calling foul on it. That doesn't make sense. And then later on it goes, see, I knew that you would think that this was off, and there's a reason for it, and the thing is just thinking all the way through. I love stuff like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, this is a very tight movie, and I don't know, just like really, really thoughtful. And the twist, I don't think, because it could have easily come across like twist for the sake of like a twist, and it doesn't really have that at all.
And it also doesn't feel like super gimmicky or even twisty. Like when you say twist, I'm not even totally sure what you're talking about.
Oh, I guess, yeah, it's not technically a twist, but I guess, I mean, structure-wise, where it's like the end is the beginning,
Yeah,
other way around.
Yeah, I mean, Smashing Pumpkins used both iterations of that title, so it can go either direction. The beginning is the end is the beginning. Yeah, and that is, I guess, technically a twist. I think most audiences would likely figure out that's what's going on well before it's revealed, but that's why I don't think it really plays as a reveal. It's just a foregone conclusion that at some point we're going to get that scene. There are so many really nice clues that you're in the future at the beginning of that movie when you think that initially everything after that is until we get into the dream sequence stuff, or I shouldn't say dream sequence, the memories, that all of that is actually post that first scene. It's at least a couple of scenes before it starts to become really clear that that can't have happened yet, which I really like, because at first it's confusing in an interesting way, where I'm like, I'm kind of trusting this material and part of that's because I've seen the movie before and I remember liking it, but I think the first time around I probably had this too, where it's like, okay, something is going on. It initially feels like a time jump, and of course it's not a time jump, it's non-linear. But it's like, why is this guy crying in this car right now? And then you'll realize that that actually takes place, interestingly, actually linearly. That part does happen after the initial first scene, and then we'll go farther back, and all of that becomes clear and makes a lot of sense as the events of the movie unfold. Like, this is a weird thing to say. It's confusing in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I like about this movie is that it's
So smooth brain over here.
it's real quirky, and it's technically kind of a comedy, but most of it's not like especially laugh out loud funny. Like, I think it has to have that quirkiness in order for us to buy the premise.
And it could have easily fallen into like the Jim Carrey comedy stuff, since he is your lead actor.
Well, and what's amazing about it is he's doing a lot of the kinds of kind of slapstick and rubber face stuff he does in his more straight on goofy comedy things, but the way the movie plays tonally, that actor is doing those things in a movie that's not that kind of movie.
Yeah, I had that with a few moments where he does like maybe like his mouth will just shift over here when he's, wondering what's going on. He's hearing voices in his head from the people that are like erasing his memories.
Yeah, like
He'll do some of that stuff.
he basically is a more like depressing even version of Stanley Ipkiss from The Mask, if instead of The Mask he was getting his memory erased.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the way he's just kind of very like insecure and just like in his own kind of world.
He's a pushover. He's too nice for his own good.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
Thank you, I
easily
couldn't think of the words.
he's easily manipulated.
Yeah, because even when they meet on the train, he's just kind of awkward, being like, I'm just writing my journal, and she's the one that's pushing herself onto him and slowly getting closer and closer.
Yeah, and I love the stuff with the journal at the beginning because he and pretty typical easy framing or not framing device. Just conceit to get voiceover, but I like that he says, "Why do I fall in love with every woman that gives me any kind of attention?" Because that tells you everything you need to know about initially about the psychology of this guy, and we need that to appreciate why he would fall for her, because the movie skirts the line of sympathetic characters a lot. Like, I don't like her at the beginning. I would not go out with this woman. She needs help. Something's wrong with this person, and that's the point. It's supposed to be, and something's wrong with him too. And I mean, I say that like I don't think they're supposed to be. They're kind of exaggerated, maybe, but I don't think that they're supposed to be like really super screwed up in the head kinds of people. They're messed up in the ways that a lot of people are messed up. But I think I don't know if this sentiment will make any sense. They seem more messed up because a lot of movies like to play people as more perfect than most people in real life are, but they have one like prevailing central character flaw. And these are people with lots of them. And then as we get to know them better, they feel drawn, and you start to see their good qualities as well. But because we're working backwards, and a lot of the point of this, I think, is things feel worse as they go along much of the time in our lives, right? So we work backwards so that we appreciate these characters more as we're going back in time, because as the relationship gets more complicated, they get more and more to the point where they can't stand each other. And as a and so it's nice to get the nonlinear thing mostly going backwards, because I'm liking these characters more as the conflict is getting deeper. And so there's a really nice juxtaposition there.
Yeah, and I think too, when you first meet them, obviously they're both kind of crazy in their own kind of way. But she's obviously much more like outgoing in hers, while he's just kind of closed in. So I can understand why, like, at the start of the movie, it'd be like, oh, I'm not sure about this character. Like, she's a nut job.
And this is one of those movies where the ending kind of makes or breaks the film. Because if you get to the end and you get real sappy and they're just soulmates that were always meant to be together, and it's like happily ever after, the whole thing doesn't work. Like, the point isn't they can work it out. They're meant to be together. These people will be fine. The point is you can't improve and be a better person if you don't struggle and make mistakes and try things that don't work. And you need the memories of like we are some of our experiences. You need the memories of the things that didn't work in your life so that you have a chance to do better later on. The other thing I love about the second meet cute that we open with is in that journal he goes, I'm never impulsive. Why am I doing this? It's because you had a relationship with this girl, and some of that is still in there, even though it was erased. Like, that's why it's happening. Like,
Yeah, it kind of goes into like the subconscious stuff in terms of like that kind of thing.
yeah, you have evolved to some degree subconsciously, and for better or worse, you're a different person. And if you get those memories back, or you develop, I guess, new ones that are essentially the old ones, because that's what's happening at the end, when they decide to stay together, even though they know it probably won't work out. You are you can see your history. You can learn from your history. And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the main point of this movie. It's a really complex structure with a very ultimately simple story.
Yeah, that's probably what works so well about it is that it's a very simple message and story of just these two characters, but the way it's told is very interesting. Like it's that you can take just a simple concept that's been done a million times and then make it interesting again, like make it new.
Yeah, and the existential stuff and what this movie has to say about the fickleness of memory, and again, we are the sum of our experiences. All of those ideas, that stuff I could analyze for days. Like, the ideas are real complex, and uh, and deep and interwoven. But the but I mean, I can describe this story in a couple of sentences, and even with its subplots, because nothing in this is too convoluted or anything.
Yeah, like all the stuff with the scientists too is pretty straightforward.
And I love that he's not turned into just a completely skeezy, awful person. Like, he's kind of messed up, but when we get the reveal that, so that's Tom Wilkinson, right? That's the guy who plays Carmine
Falcone.
Falcone in Batman Begins, and I assume that was his very next role, because this comes out in '04, Begins is '05.
This guy has like a star-studded cast, yeah.
It's a cool cast, yeah. And one of Kirsten Dunst's better performances. I liked her fine in this.
Yeah, she had some moments where I was like, oh, it's Kirsten Dunst, but overall, yeah, I thought it was probably one of her better performances.
Some people won't like me saying this because I'm always finding excuses to throw Mary Jane under the bus from the Raimi movies, but I think this is just how I feel about it. I think it's kind of sad that the character in this movie that decides to stick it to her boss, who slept with her, like had a relationship with her, and like that whole thing is messed up because she has to be half his age, and erases her memory of it now because she asked him to. But like it's not quite as bad as it sounds, I guess. But that the character who sends out evidence to everybody whose memories have been erased by this company, and screws that guy, is a more likable character than Mary Jane in the Spider-Man movies. That's amazing.
Yeah, pretty much.
but I kind of think so. But yeah, Wilkinson's really good in this. He seems a little bit typecast as like he's got to be like a bad person in some way or another. But I found him kind of oddly sympathetic, if that's the right word.
Hmm. Yeah, no, he's likable, I think, in his role, even though he is kind of maybe like a sleazy guy.
Ruffalo's really good in this. It made me miss him in movies that aren't. I was gonna keep the sentence going. I just mean like. I just mean I miss him in standalone films where he goes and he plays a different character, and then the next time I see him, he's playing even a different character. And you could say that about a lot of obviously actors that end up in franchises playing the same character over and over again. But I've gotten to where I don't care for his Hulk anymore. So like, oh yeah, that's right. He had this really interesting career before he was in those movies.
Hmm. Well, Dan would love this because he always complains that Bruce Banner is now just a stoner, and that's his character in this movie.
That is true.
hmm But yeah, you also get Elijah Wood, who's pretty cool in this. And this is right after Lord of the Rings
Yeah.
too.
Well, right in the middle of it, really. No, no. You're right. The last one's '03, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure it's '03. Yeah, it's
That's
just like
right.
right after. Yeah.
Immediately after.
hmm And then he went on to do more producing, I guess.
Yeah. I guess he hasn't been in a ton of stuff.
No, he's a pretty interesting actor in that he like produces a lot of just out there things, and he's in a lot of weird stuff.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
He wants to do a Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I hope he gets the rights to it. That could be cool. Uh, but you also have Kate Winslet, who's really good in this, and I think that's the entire cast.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
a
you get like
it's a
David
small
Cross.
cast.
Yeah. hmm
Yeah,
Those.
and this just feels like the kind of movie that guy is going to be in. It's like as soon as you read the script, you don't even know what character it is. Just that guy's going to be in this movie somewhere.
I mean, yeah, I'd rather David Cross be in a movie like this than the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies.
Oh, I forgot that was him.
hmm He's in like all of them.
Is there anything about this film that you would do differently?
Um, Nothing that immediately comes to mind.
It
Uh,
it strikes me as a knife lawless film.
yeah, like I said, it's very tight. Like just it moves along. It gives you all the information you need when you need it. There's not like I wasn't sitting there being like, like this part kind of sucks. I wish it'll pick up later. It was
Yeah, I'm
just,
always engaged with it.
hmm
And I never feel like, even in the memory sequences in his head, that it ever goes insanely off the rails. And that, like that really could have happened. Or where it feels like it just sags in the middle, where it's like, we just need a lot of examples of like weird stuff happening in his memories. It always feels like it's informing his character in some way. It always feels like there's rising action. The story continues to progress. I like that there's always something at stake. It's not just, okay, he's in his memories for a while, we got to kind of beat around the bush, or Austin's gonna fall asleep. Like he's you have not exactly a ticking clock, but you have like a danger clearly looming. Like Tom Wilkinson is going to erase all of his memories, and he is trying to not be found, and it's this kind of cat and mouse game in his head for a while, which is cool. For a minute, I kind of had the criticism of, I would think that this would happen with more people, that like when they're erasing people's minds, more of them would, like, because I guess they're always aware of what's happening to them, but like that more of them would change their mind, decide they want to get out in some way, and then figure out kind of the clever way that he does to try to avert it. And then there's a line somewhere where one of the technicians is like, oh, he's figured out, he's like immune to this. He's figured out a way around it. And I was like, wouldn't that happen to more people? And then at the end of the day, maybe it does happen to more people, but it doesn't matter because his memory does end up getting erased. So I appreciate that. I mean, Wilkinson does seem really surprised and confused that this is happening, so it does seem unusual, but I appreciate that it's not that story where this is the guy who, for no good reason except he's the main character in the film, it has broken the system somehow and is going to wake up and tear the whole system. Like, the system does get torn down at the end, the memory wiping company, but it's not because of him. It's because of the girl played by
Gwen
Kirsten
Stacy,
Kirsten
looking
Dunst.
Mary
Yeah,
Jane.
yeah, exactly. Um, So I really appreciate that. I like that he loses and then kind of wins and loses all at the same time at the end. Like I said, that last scene really makes or breaks the movie. The idea that they are having this couple is having the same argument that they've had before they got their memories erased, barely knowing each other after they listened to each other's tapes. And they realize we don't remember having a relationship, and we could end this whole thing now because we know how it's gone before, and we know what we're like and what it's liable to do again. And then they go, and this could have come off so cheesy and silly, and it doesn't. They just both start laughing. They go, you know, that's worth it. Fine, like we're probably going to have this terrible relationship at the end of the day, but but the memories are worth it. Like, we have to make those again. And I love the ambiguity of it, because they could get along this time. It could work out. They might have learned some things from just the tapes. Like, just, oh, there's this perception of me from Kate Winslet's from Clementine's perspective. There's this perception of me that I just sleep around with people in order that just that's how I socialize. That's how I get like I get to know anyone. That's how manipulative I am or whatever. And she's like, I'm not like that. I don't do that. Almost as if she's never heard that before. Like, just the tapes, I think, would have to make them rethink the way they treat people and in the way they act. And, like, call me a hopeless romantic or whatever. I like to think there's the potential that it actually works out for them. But I love the ambiguity that it may not. It probably doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it feels almost like a critique of, like really stupid rom-coms when
Yeah.
she walks away and, he runs into the hallway and he's like, wait a minute, don't go. It's I'm going to run through the airport to find the person and it's all going to work out. Mm-hmm.
No, that's absolutely right. And it just feels more real than that. It's more like what actual relationships with a lot of people end up being like. And I just love the maturity, the sobriety of the message that it's not as important whether or not it works out, that these as it is that people give it a shot. And I'm not gonna get into TMI and my own personal history and stuff, but like, I think a lot of us have had awful relationships that were really important for our chemical makeup. That if you go back and you look at, romantic or otherwise, like you go back and you look at a thing that while it was happening, maybe impulsively, if getting your memory erased was an option, you would have done that, and you're grateful you didn't, because of the missteps you might have made in life if you hadn't had those experiences. Like, failure is important.
Yeah, exactly. That's just a big part of this movie, as like you said, just how much you learn from your mistakes and you go from there. And that's very important.
And we haven't talked at all about the title, but "Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind." It's and that's a quote, and the quote is in the movie. It does have that kind of episode title thing of like, oh, you gotta get the episode title,
There it is.
in the script. There it is. I think the idea with that is trying to do a subversion of ignorance is bliss. Like, that title seems to say ignorance is bliss in a way that's like, that's what we thought until we tried it and it's not. And or it might be for a minute, but you're not seeing the forest for the trees. Like, I think another huge point of this movie is like getting the full picture of your life. Like, as he's going backwards and getting all these snapshots and then losing them, he feels like he's losing himself. Like he's no longer, he's going to lose the core of his being if all of those things don't stay together to create the whole of who he is. So like ignorance at the end of the day is not bliss. You're just going to keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I went through a mind thing in order to take the title out of my mind because I just kept forgetting what it was. And all week I was like, it's eternal, spotless mind, something. I don't know.
Why did you pay to get just that erased? Like that was just seems like a waste of money to me.
I don't know. I don't like those two words being so close together.
Just the title of a movie. It's like I gotta get this title erased.
Exactly. Not even all of it. Just sunshine of.
I don't feel like they should have to come to your apartment to do that job either. I feel like you should be able to do that on site. You should be able to go there, 3 minutes, that's gone. Why was I here again? You're picking up breadsticks. We got your breadsticks over here.
Hey, having a root canal.
When you first go to that office, I thought it was going to be some kind of like therapy place or something. It kind of plays that way for a second.
Yeah, just the way it's set up. When you can tell it's some sort of like medical thing too, but you don't exactly know what it is yet.
I love that there's no explanation whatsoever for not just how the technology works. Of course, that is going to be just a conceit. Even if it was more, harder science fiction, you'd get about as much about how it works, I think, as you do in this. But I also like that there's this absurdity, like I alluded to earlier, of just that business running. Like, how's it a secret? Like, why do all these people use it but nobody talks about it? Where he's toward the beginning when he finds out about it, he's like, that's not real, that can't exist. It's like, I assume they advertise. Like, I'm not sure how all these people know about it. But you can't have word of mouth. They erase your memory. Like, how does anybody find out about it? I didn't have any of these questions or care about any of this while I was watching the movie. It's not important. It doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me. And I know that I get kind of in the weeds sometimes with this kind of internal logic, where in some cases it really matters to me, and in other cases it doesn't. But it's just about the experience I'm having with it while I'm watching it. Like, that's all conceit, and it plays as absurd, and it's tongue-in-cheek, and it knows it. It knows what it is, and so while I'm watching it, none of that matters. But after the fact, I'm just thinking about, like, wait a minute, that can't work. I love that it's played that way. I like that it's not futuristic. It kind of needs to be, set contemporarily to do the kind of story they're telling. So again, you'd get too in the weeds with internal logic and how the world works if you went, well, this sounds like a futuristic technology. It's a thing we don't have right now in real life, so we've got to set it 10, 20 years in the future. I'm glad this doesn't do that. Because at the end of the day, it's not a science fiction film. It's a relationship movie.
No, it's just kind of like the microwave emitter. It's just, it's kind of realistic. There's this one sci-fi thing here, though. It's the conceit. More so here than that.
I hadn't thought of this before. In some ways, it's like a perfect marriage of some of the goofier, out there movies that made his career, and then something that's still a comedy and still absurd, but is more down to earth, like a Truman Show. So this is like Liar Liar meets Truman Show, as far as the logic of it goes.
Oh, okay, interesting. I haven't seen either of those.
And tonally how it works. Because Liar Liar just has this conceit that's even less explained than this. Kid makes a wish on his birthday cake. His dad can't lie for 24 hours. Why? Doesn't matter. It's just
one of those
the
movies.
Premise of the film, yeah. But it's also a little bit like Truman Show in that there is this really bizarre institution that shouldn't be allowed to function but does.
You know what else this movie is like? Is Spectre. When Blofeld just randomly has the machine from this movie that he puts on James Bond, and he's like, I will erase all of your memories.
I forgot about that.
And they drill into the exact spots that they mark on Jim Carrey's head. and then the drill comes out and he still remembers her. So I guess this machine doesn't work in real life.
Well, I think it does work in real life because I must have used it after I saw Spectre, because I remember nothing about that movie. Just remember I didn't like it.
I just had that thought now, and I was like, wait a minute. Why
Would
is
you get
the
that prop? Did you go to Jim Carrey? You got that prop?
Why you bought it from Jim Carrey? Did it? Is that the script?
But yeah, I mean, I'm not against the grain on this one at all. Eternal Sunshine. It's great. It's just as brilliant as everybody's always said it is.
It's a bingo.
Austin, any other elements of this that you wanted to bring up and make sure we talk about?
The one woman at the clinic wanted to forget her dog. That's weird.
Oh, I don't remember that. Does that happen?
Yeah, when he walks in, he sits down, and because you need to have stuff from like the person you want to forget or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And the woman to his left just has a box with like a dog chew and like the collar and stuff. I was like, why would you want to forget your dog? That's weird.
Well, no, I can see it. I imagine what might be going on there is a person
No, you're just sad that your dog.
who's depressed and distraught because like that was probably like, your only companion. And was it an elderly lady?
Yes.
Okay, so everyone she knows is dead, right?
She wasn't that old.
Everyone she knows is dead, and she only had this
like
dog
Rock
for companionship. And although this will probably backfire on her then, because now she'll have no one at all, and won't remember the only thing that's been keeping her sane all this long. But that's another way you could have gone to make the point of this movie, but I think it would have been much more depressing.
Well, then she'll get even like more confused when she goes back to her apartment and there's just like a dead dog in her apartment. She's like, what's that doing there?
One of the things that she has to bring to the facility is the dog.
Yeah, it's not even dead
in
yet.
a box.
Anyways, just went off the rails.
Morbid pretty quick. Do you think if this technology existed in the John Wick universe, John Wick would use it to forget his dog?
I want to see that movie. Okay, if you were in this movie, what would you choose to forget?
I don't know, because having seen the end of the movie, I think I agree with it that you shouldn't use this. But if but all things being equal, it wouldn't.
Falcone puts a gun to your head and he's like, "Okay, you need to forget something. What are you gonna forget?"
Well, you know what I'm gonna say, right?
What's that?
Picard and Discovery.
Oh.
That's
a pretty good one.
That's the answer. Yeah, at least right now. Because I think there's no way in which my life is not more enriched by not knowing about those things.
Yeah,
what would it be for you?
I would forget that I remembered that I forgot to pay my phone bill last week. So I won't be sad that I forgot it.
Is it weird, and obviously these are not the same premise, but in doing a non-linear thing and working backwards as much as this movie does, is it interesting that this comes out in such close proximity to Memento?
Yeah, that is pretty interesting, because that's all about memory too, isn't it? Like somebody who's like, he can only remember like certain blocks of time or something.
Yeah, where he only has short-term memory but not long-term memory.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That is pretty interesting, yeah.
Is Wilkinson in that movie too?
I have no idea because I've never seen it.
Have you ever seen it? I remember there being some alum. I have to work backwards here. There's some alum from Memento that show up in Begins, but I saw Begins first, obviously. So when I saw Memento, I was like, "Oh, it's that guy from Begins." But I know.
And you get mad at me when I do that.
I know that's why I went that way. I know the falafel guy is in that movie. Flass.
Okay, yeah.
Flass is in that. I can't remember. I thought maybe Wilkinson was. I'll look it up real quick. But anyway.
Yeah, Flash just kind of shows up in random stuff. He's in that Sons of Anarchy show. My family was obsessed with
I've only
that.
seen Memento once, so I'm just not remember. I guess he's not.
Oh, okay. He chose to do this instead.
Well, and I can't remember if Memento. I don't think it is '04. I think it isn't it like 3. Maybe it is. Maybe it is 4.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Now it's just looking up stuff on the internet. The show. Forgive me.
Well, this is what happens when you chose to forget Memento.
Oh no, it's '01. I didn't remember it being that early. Wow.
Oh, weird, yeah.
Yeah. Goodness, that is earlier than I thought. Yeah. Anyway,
Well, he isn't
well,
that special.
once again. Once again, I want to thank Dylan for having us talk about Eternal Sunshine. And next time, we're going to be doing something that I don't know how you're going to feel about. I haven't told you about this
Okay,
yet.
hold on. I'm gonna sit up then.
We're not
What?
doing a movie next time. This will be our first foray together into television. And this is a thing that for a long time I have kind of avoided and didn't really want to have to watch. And then I've gotten more
How?
curious about it as time has gone on because Dan loves it and has been telling me I really need to sit down and watch it. Did you just hurt yourself?
Yeah, I made a face and it split my lip.
Oh no, are you all right?
Yeah, I maybe will die, but it's okay.
Glad we got
Depending on what you say, I may be dead next time.
glad we got that on camera. Uh, Malik wants us to do the pilot for The Boys.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if you've watched any of that or if you had
I
any
have not.
intention on seeing any of that.
No, I don't have a lot of time to watch shows, so that's a show that everybody tells me to watch, but I just haven't.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to know that you don't just immediately have like an aversion to watching it because we haven't talked about this and I didn't know how you'd feel about having to do that. But Malik's been
Arr.
that's one of his favorite shows. He's been trying to get me to watch it forever and I just haven't. And for a while, I really, really didn't want to, and I've gotten more curious about it. So now we're being forced to. But I'm glad I've at least gotten over the hump of just please don't make me do that. Like I'm curious now. I actually want to see it at this point. So.
Falcone's got a gun to your head, and he's like, "You're gonna watch The Boys."
You know what? I'm okay with the trade-off of I have to watch that, but you will erase New Track. That's fine.
Yeah, but then they mess up because you decide partway through that you're like, "Wait a minute, I don't want to lose you," and then you and a 90-year-old Patrick Stewart run through your memories, and then they accident they accidentally erase old Trek instead.
It's weird how in my memories, every time 90-year-old Patrick Stewart is running, it's always a stunt double.
Hmm. Oh, exactly. And he's always asking you to sit down before he actually says anything.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But he's really good at beating up Romulans.
It's like whenever I dream of Bill Murray, which is like almost every night, he always just is like, "Hey, do you mind if I sit down for a minute?" I'm like, "That's fine, buddy. You go ahead and take that chair. You've earned it."
And then you call his answering machine trying to get him to do a job. So like every time he shows up in Austin's dream, it's after Austin in his dream has called his answering machine. It's like you've reached the answering service of Bill Murray. Leave a message at the beep. And he's like, "Would you please be in my dream, Bill Murray? I need you. I
Yeah,
need you
I'm
in my
like,
dream
Bill Murray, I'm gonna
for this
have this
job."
dream about bears and they go to war with the gorilla nation, and I need you to show up and give a heartwarming speech about why love is important.
Please call me back. It won't take you too long
Hmm.
out of your busy sleep schedule.
Yeah, well,
Anyway,
and then he's just like, I did Garfield, whatever. I can do this.
thanks a lot for watching, everybody. This is what happens when we shoot ReQuest way too late in the evening. We'll be back
This was a
again.
journey through both of our minds.
It was, and it's possible we'll play this back and it won't come out linearly.
Well, no, okay. You're gonna go through and edit it so that this is the beginning of the video, and then when we talk about, I don't know, but you'll mix it all up. You'll put it in a blender.
And then you'll get to the end and it'll be amazing because we won't realize that we had already shot the beginning and then you'll see the end, and you'll be like, oh, it all comes full circle. They're bringing up things they couldn't possibly have known about at the beginning.
Hmm. Yeah, and then you'll just end on a bunch of like news footage that has nothing to do with this, but you'll like intercut that. That's the science aspect of it.
We'll be back with you again next week with more of the request. And in the meantime, I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin the Day Ghost.
I don't remember who I was, but
Austin split his lip open ghost.
it's bleeding, it's gushing with blood.
Oh, we should have ended 5 minutes ago. I apologize. Okay, bye everybody.